Welcome to the Guilbault Girls Show, where you will have the opportunity to hear from mothers, fathers, siblings, and individuals themselves about their journey of living with a disability. I know, it's called Guilbault Girls, but we have a bonus for you as we get the Guilbault boys to interview some of the dads and siblings to get their perspectives too. We'll also have special guests from time to time to share the many resources that are available to those living with a disability and their families. So get ready to laugh, smile, cry, maybe even get a little angry when you hear some of those stories of their day-to-day struggles. But let's not forget their many triumphs. As they say, it takes a village, and if it weren't for our village, we wouldn't be where we are today. So join us. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Guilbault Girls Show. I'm your host, Karen Guilbault, and today I have my daughter,
Faith.
Yep, Faith's in the house.
Look so professional because it's been a while. I'm sorry.
She's trying to look professional because it's been a while. It has been a hot minute because usually when I'm doing these interviews, you're in school.
Yes.
So when I do the summer one, she sits in on a lot of them. So I'm glad that we're able to she gets off early on Friday. So today's guest is Maggie van Galen. Welcome, Maggie. So
hi, Guilbault Girls.
Yeah.
Hi.
So Maggie is an award-winning children's book author and wordsmith, offering writing services that weave your words into compelling content. Maggie is the author of 2 children's book series, The Adventure of Keeno and Ernest and King's Day Out. All 3 books in the Keeno and Ernest series have received the nationally acclaimed Mom's Choice Awards, among other individual awards. Her latest series, King's Day Out, is co-written with the Doctor of Pediatric Occupational Therapy, and together they have broadened their scope to form a business with a mission of empowering children as they navigate life's adventures. King's Day Out LLC will incorporate books, resources, and activities. Maggie's favorite thing about being a children's author is reading to the children. She's read to more than 4,000 kids and hasn't lost one yet. I love that. That is her personal claim to fame. Maggie also offers classroom and private sessions on writing, which can tie in with a lesson plan and or a specific theme. Maggie grew up in Northern Michigan. She graduated from Michigan State University with a BA in advertising and a minor in creative writing. After spending more than 10 years climbing the corporate ladder, Maggie decided to put her passion for writing to the forefront. She began writing for local newspapers and published a book of poetry. In 2000, Maggie and her husband moved to London, which, wow, that's unheard of, moving all the way to London, where she worked at The Economist. After starting her family a few years later, the children's stories began to flow and her new career began. Maggie now lives in a small town north of Boston with her husband, 2 sons, a cat, their Bernese mountain dog, Noning, which is Dutch for king. So again, welcome so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to have you. And I'm excited that you're actually going to be in the Baltimore area in April. So hopefully we'll get to meet you. So you state that you have written from the time you could hold a pen and that you truly consider it your gift. So with that being said, can you share with us more about your journey to becoming an author, storyteller, and writer?
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It's awesome. Love being here. Hi, Faith. Good to see you again. Let's see. I think I've always been a storyteller. I've used words and writing throughout my life. In high school, I used writing as sort of, coping mechanism through all the teenage things that you go through. Written poetry. I really wanted to be a journalist when I went into school, which is basically storytelling as well. Somewhere along the line, somebody convinced me I'd never make any money as a journalist, so I should switch to something else. So I switched to advertising with the hopes of, again, being in creative writing. And, followed the path of what life throws at you. So when I came out of college, the automotive industry in Detroit was imploding and there was no advertising jobs to be had. So I went into sales. I went into IT sales. And I did well at that. I was young. I was a female in a very male-dominated world. And it taught me a lot. and I wrote still. I sort of chalk it up to experience. I wrote business type documents, sales documents, marketing literature, that type of thing. Um, but as I got older, the sort of desire to write creatively started to push its way forward. And when my youngest son was born, I started making up stories that based on stories that my dad had told me as a child. And he had never written any of them down. So I remembered the characters really well, but I didn't really remember the plot lines. And being a mom, I had to throw in some life lessons and morals and that type of thing, which I'm sure my dad's stories were all just action adventure. But that's how the adventures of Keeno and Ernest were born. And then from there, it just kind of took off. I mean, I wrote the first book. I told the story of the first book for years before I actually ever wrote it down.
Okay.
And then I would go into the kids' classrooms and tell the stories, and the teachers sort of pushed me to think about getting it published because they thought it, had merit, had good street cred. I could, there were teachable moments in the stories. I knew nothing about the publishing world, and just really wanted to leave a legacy for my kids. And through friends and family and the support of my communities, it kind of took off. And here I am.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So Faith is going to ask you the next question if she can see this properly. Okay.
Okay.
Can you tell us?
Can you tell us? Speak a little bit more.
More about so your writing. Services and activities you offer. What you offer.
Right. So can you tell us more about your writing services and what you offer as far as that piece?
Sure. So my sort of day job, if you will, is that I offer writing services to small to medium-sized businesses. I write short form content for social media posts, blog posts, newsletters, websites. I do editing and proofreading. I do have a side hustle of author consulting that I offer to budding authors. I really believe everybody has a story in them. And I have 20 years of experience learning all kinds of lessons that I'm happy to share with people and help guide them. So yeah, that's my writing services.
That's
weaving
awesome.
words into compelling content. That's my
That's good to know, though. Very good to know. All right. So can you share with us more about your Keeno and Ernest series? What are they about, along with some of the valuable lessons, life lessons that they touch on?
Sure. So there's three.
Is there a puppet that goes with it too?
Yes.
Okay, so good. I forgot to add that one. I'm like, when I was going through your website and on the blog and your store, I'm like, I saw a puppet. I'm like, does it come with puppets?
Yeah, so the general premise behind the stories is Keeno is a very mischievous little monkey who's always getting himself into trouble, and Ernest is his best friend, an elephant. And Keeno, they both live in the jungle together, and they're kind of navigating life in the jungle. There's 3 books in the series. The Banana Tree is the first one, The Diamond Mine is the second one, and A New Friend is the third one. And excuse me, the life lessons that they learned are kind of based on the experiences that my own kids had growing up. And Keeno basically gets himself in trouble and Ernest has to get him out. And there's an adventure along the way to get them there. In the first book, Keeno learns about following family rules and friendship. And in the second book, The Diamond Mine, Keeno learns about asking before taking. And in the third book, which is A New Friend, Keeno learns about staying true to himself and not changing so others will like him.
I feel like a lot of people at my school need to learn that.
She said, you gotta talk a little louder.
I feel like a lot of people at my school need to learn that.
She feels like a lot of people at her school needs to learn that.
I think it's an important lesson for everyone.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. No matter what age you are.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So those are the three books. And then there's a woman who used to live in my hometown here who's a puppet maker. And I always used to go when I do school readings, I have a monkey puppet and an elephant puppet that I would bring in because my books are sort of pre-K through mid-elementary age bracket. And puppets, they keep attention span and they help to tell the story. And so this woman came to me and said, I would love to sort of create hand puppets for little ones. So she did. So she created a whole series of puppets for each of the characters, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. You stated in your bio that your latest series, King's Day Out, is co-written with the doctor of pediatric occupational therapy, Dr. Amy, is it Whedon? Is that how you?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay. Dr. Whedon. Can you share with us how you guys met? What ultimately inspired you both to come together and form the business? Because it is an important mission. And then when did you guys launch it?
Right. So I met Amy. We both belong to a group called the Women's Business League,
Okay.
which is a women's networking group, which is a whole nother series I'm happy to talk to you about. But as a side note, I'm not a natural joiner of groups by nature. Um, but I joined this group and it's been life-changing. It's awesome. It's an amazing organization. But so Amy has a private occupational therapy clinic,
Mm-hmm.
and she was opening a new clinic back in 2019.
Okay.
Um, and through mutual friends, somebody had suggested that we meet and that I might be able to do a reading at her clinic opening, at the grand opening, to sort of entertain some of the kiddos of my Keeno and Ernest stories.
Mm-hmm.
So we met, we had coffee, and we started chatting. And I was telling her the story about how I had taken Koning, my dog, um, through the car wash. He just, not that I took him through the car wash, but he happened to be in the car when I went through the car wash. And how he was, scratching at the windows and sniffing the vents and obviously nervous and jumping back and forth. And being one of those dog moms, I videotaped it and I thought it was cute. And she had said, "Oh, those are sensory reactions because there's so many different senses coming at you.
On.
Would make a great story." She's like, "I've always wanted to write a book, but I'm not a great writer." And I thought, hey, you know what? What if we teamed up together? Because I certainly don't have the medical expertise to back this up. And so we left coffee with the idea of writing a book together. And then in February, the world shut down to COVID 2020. So the first book, King's Day Out, the Car Wash, was our COVID project. So we literally had met once, sort of hit it off.
That's awesome.
Decided to write a book together. And yeah, so needless to say, her grand opening didn't happen for a long time because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But we produced a book together, and the goal is really to empower kiddos as they navigate through life's sensory adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And the first book was published in February of 2021.
Okay.
And then the second book, which is King Takes a Bath, came out in March of 23 last year. So,
Oh. All right.
yeah.
So can you share some of the different resources and activities that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So the books themselves are resources because
Mm-hmm.
they are read-along books, or what I call lap books,
Mm-hmm.
for, parents, teachers, grandparents, caregivers to read to their kids. They're a nice story. They have a fun dog in them, and they have the hero of our story is a child that has a neurodiverse um, diagnosis. And so in the first book, The Car Wash, Ben is the hero of our story. He has the sound blocker headphones on. He's using a weighted blanket. So each book highlights 3 to 4 different tools
Okay.
that are OT related tools. So I write the story and then Amy lays the OT lens over it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not how-to books. They're not in your face like
Right.
books. They're just stories. Um, and because the hero of our story is teaching King how to overcome his fears and anxieties using the tools that he's learned with his occupational therapist, it becomes the child is the hero. So he gets, we've gotten a lot of comments from teachers saying we love the fact that you've mainstreamed somebody with a diagnosis because now somebody sitting in the corner with sunblock or headphones on is the hero. They're the cool person, and people begin to understand the use of the tools,
Yeah.
which is what we hope for. And then from that, we had our illustrator do some like crafting activities. So there's dots to dots and mazes, coloring. That's all on our website, which is kingsdayout.com. And then Amy again went in with her OT lens and she suggested like try coloring on a vertical wall because it helps to build core strength. Use broken crayons because it helps with fine motor. Different things like that can help any kid, but can certainly help children that are maybe struggling a little bit to use the tools. And shortly after the first book came out, we began getting some feedback from people in organizations saying we want more. We want some more resources. We want more, more books, obviously. But
Mm-hmm.
so we developed what's called the KDO or King's Day Out Partner Program. And basically the idea behind that, and it's sort of just morphed organically, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But the first stage was our charitable partnership program, where we work with nonprofits that support children and their families that have a sensory string to the diagnosis that they have. And we give a percentage of each book sale back to that charity. We do a fundraiser for them. We've created a private Facebook group where parents and caregivers and whoever else would like to joins to be able to share ideas. Um, and it started with a friend of mine's son has a chromosomal disorder, and we had reached out to that organization, and they were like, "Yeah, absolutely, that's phenomenal." So they became our first partner. And as it's grown, we've discovered that, even though the sensory string sort of can go across multiple diagnoses, if you're a parent and you're in that world, you're kind of tunnel visioned. So the nice thing about the KDO partner program is it brings together people from all different diagnoses to sort of say, hey, you know what? This works for my child who has whatever, and this works for my child, and maybe it'll work together.
Right.
And then we sort of broke that off as well, and we developed the KDO professional program, which brings in people that offer services to our families that are a little bit outside of Amy's either professional area of expertise, the OT world, or outside of her geographic location, that can offer, advice and thoughts and programs or whatever
Right.
for
All
our
kinds of
families.
resources.
So
Yeah.
we have a special needs estate planning attorney.
I saw that. I
We
was looking through, and as I was going through, I'm like, wow, I'm like, they have a lot. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, special needs photographer. We have an ADHD coach. We have an advocacy coach that teaches parents how to advocate for their kiddos at the state and school levels. So just as people pop up, I'm like, hey, you'd make a great pro partner. You'd make a great charitable partner. So yeah, we're always trying to grow things out. Um, and Amy has just developed a sensory training for teachers and a sensory training for parents. So if they want to learn more about what sensory processing is, how it
People would
works,
probably love
what
that.
happens when it's not working. I'm sorry, Faith, what'd you say?
People would probably love that because they're on different levels.
You got to talk louder, honey. You're whispering.
People would probably love that because they're on different levels.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, so we do school readings. That's why we're coming to Maryland in April. Going to the Bear School in April to do a reading, and then Amy will do her sensory training. That's done virtually, which is great because anybody can go and you can have any number of people in the room watching it. So it's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been fun. It's been definitely interesting from my perspective. I have a son who has ADHD, um, and I never knew anything about the sensory piece
Piece
to
of it.
it. He was diagnosed very late, and that's again a whole nother series of then feedback I got from schools about him just being a boy and he's just busy. And well, had I known then what I know now,
Now. Mm-hmm.
right, would have been very different. Would have been
Mm-hmm.
very different. A lot of things make sense to me now that I didn't know back then.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know.
No, exactly. Exactly. That's I always say, even like by doing this, helping people network. And I've met so many people, I mean, look, I've met you from Briley. Like you meet people, you meet more people, and you just keep networking and you learn so much more. And then you have more resources to give people. And it just, you're trying to do the work. People did it before us. So now it's our turn to do it for the ones coming up behind us to kind of help them through.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also see that you've listed on your website collaborative products. So are you looking to form more relationships with others to offer different products on your website, or how does one go about that, and what's that all about?
Yeah, again, that's kind of something that's just grown organically as we meet people. Um, so Lisa Scala, who does our Infinity support bracelets, is a jeweler in my hometown here, and she's an amazing jeweler. I'm slightly addicted to her work.
I love being with
Um,
Lisa.
yeah. And when we launched the first book, she did a beautiful paw print charm for us as a giveaway that we
Mm-hmm.
did. And she said, do you want to come up with something that sort of represents what the books are about and the families that you support? And I can make a bracelet from it. I'm like, sure. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how that started. And then we met Whitney Lear, who's the owner of Green Eggs Therapy in Tampa, Florida, and she's an OT as well. She specializes in like feeding strategies. Um, and she has a whole sensory kit side hustle.
Okay.
So she has an Etsy store. She makes the most beautiful sensory kits for like every, holiday, anything you can think of.
Think
If you
of.
go and look at her Etsy store, it's amazing. And we were just chatting and I said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a car wash themed sensory kit?" And she was like, "Yeah." So, the sensory kits you can buy from, she makes the kits. It has a
Mm-hmm.
book in it, so yeah,
That's
it just
cool.
it kind of grows. So yes, if somebody's interested and has something that they think would be useful, I'm happy to talk to them about it.
Okay, awesome. Are there any new books in the works, and what does the future look like for King's Day Out LLC?
Well, yes, actually, the third book in the King's Day Out series has made its way out of my head and onto paper.
That's
It has marinated, as I like to say. So the third book is called King Goes to the Beach, and he will go with a friend, and there's a lot of sensory experiences at the beach: the feel of the sand, the water, the sounds, the
Smell.
heat, the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so trying to incorporate all of that and I think after this winter, we all need a nice beach day. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yes.
that's something that we're working on now. And yeah, so that's kind of where the future of King's Day Out is headed at the moment, is focusing on book 3 and getting into more schools, doing more, readings and sensory trainings and that type of thing.
That's exciting.
Even me, I think it's a sensory thing. Like
Talk
if
louder.
they put me down in the sand and I won't like it. I'm always in the water for like 3 hours straight.
Yeah,
You like going in the water?
She
Yes.
loves the water. Yeah.
But sand is not my friend.
Sand's not your friend.
No.
It's
What do you
not
like
my
about
friend. It's
the?
not my friend because it's hard to get you down to the beach when there's not
I like to make sand castles at the edge of the shore with water, but that's about it. That's all the sand I'm touching.
What do you like about the water, Faith?
I like that it. So I can't see the water sometimes, but I like how it like moves their hands.
the waves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also too, because you can, well, not in the ocean, but like when we're down at Grammy's, when we're just, in Florida, there's no real waves. So it's nice. And she can actually stand up and kind of walk on her own too.
Yeah.
So so she feels a little bit freer, if you will.
As long as you don't walk on the seashells, which I call the crabs.
You call the seashells the crabs? Yeah. Yes, it always kills my back. Actually, the beach in Florida, I grew up every time we would go visit my cousins and my aunts and stuff in Florida. They actually now have the handicap accessible mat going down to the water. So it was like, yes, because it was
That's fantastic.
because it was always such a struggle trying to get her, down there and carrying all of our stuff. So we didn't really go to the beach a whole lot with her growing up. But yeah. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share or advice you would like to give? And also if you can share your tagline.
My tagline.
Your tagline.
Yeah, well, my tagline is always follow your dreams. So that's how I sign my books. That's the kind of the board behind me. And my thought behind that is that I think as long as you have a dream in your future, I mean, the road or the path to getting there is not always a straight one. There's bumps and roadblocks and detours and potholes, especially if you live up here. But I think if you just keep the dream alive in your mind, eventually you will get there. And you work really hard to get there, and try not to get hung up by what life throws at you. So
yeah.
there's a reason behind. I'm a believer that there's a true reason behind everything that happens.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah, that's my my tagline, my life's mantra, what I live by. Try to live by.
And go ahead and just tell everybody what the name of the website is, and I'm going to put all that information in the show notes too with the links.
Okay. So the King's Day Out series is at www.kingsdayout.com. You can also find out more information from me at my website, which is maggievangalen.com. And that has information about all the books that I've done, as well as my writing services. And yeah, that's me.
Yep. And follow them on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yes. Sorry. I always forget about the social media piece.
I know, right? So before we go though, so as a token of appreciation for being a guest on the show, I always gift all of my guests with a My Intent token where I actually hand stamp your word into a token, one letter at a time with a hammer and a metal stamp.
Wow. Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
amazing.
So what word would you choose? What meaningful word would you choose and why for me to stamp?
I think dream.
Yep,
I think
perfect.
that's a good word.
At school, we're doing business slogan, and mine's a dogs for homes.
Dogs for homes.
Yeah.
Dogs for homes.
Okay.
Yes. So
dream, that goes with your tagline.
Yes. And my coffee cup.
And your coffee cup. Yes. And then, so I actually put them either on bracelets, keychains. Which one would you like, a keychain or a bracelet?
Oh, Faith, what do you think?
I think keychain, because you can carry it everywhere.
Keychain?
Yeah, but bracelet's nice too. I'm gonna send you a picture and then you can choose.
Okay.
We'll do that. Awesome. So I can't thank you enough for being on today. I'm excited to meet you come April, and I'm excited to hopefully work with you in the future with Faith. So I'm excited about that as well. And
Me too.
yes. So with that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, Faith. Bye, Karen.
Bye. Thank you for joining us as we spread awareness through our personal stories and the many resources shared. You can help us by joining our village simply by sharing our show with the masses. You can also become a supporter of the show by clicking on the link in the show notes. Your funds will allow us to keep sharing these valuable, heartfelt stories and resources. Be sure to subscribe to our Guilbault Girls podcast and YouTube show, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Guilbault Girls.